we're going to be going back over the books that I have read in the first 5 months of this year, so all the spring stuff, and we're going to be ranking them in Tier Maker by their covers only. We are not going to be ranking them because of the content of the book, although I may sometimes comment on how the cover of the book connects or does not connect to the content of the book. This is pre-booktube days for me. You can go ahead and check out my Storygraph account, which is linked in the description below, or if you prefer, you can visit my Goodreads page and click on the book that you are interested in. However, primarily we're doing covers only. So let me break down the categories for our judging of covers today. First, we're starting with I Will Never Be the Same, and that category is a cover that I believe sets a whole new tone for cover design, and it's something that I've either never seen before or it's a new trend that I wish more cover designers would hop onto. It really did justice to the content of the book, and so that is our S tier, I Will Never Be the Same. Then below that we have Please, I'd Like Some More. It's not quite the top, but it's still doing some things that I think we should see more of. Below there we have Felt Good, Might Lead. It's kind of a little bit basic.
You're basic.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's a cover that doesn't really try to do new things necessarily. It worked for the book, but it's not anything that I would love to see like a whole fleet of books imitate. And why is just, it's a choice.
Why are you the way that you are?
It's me questioning the choice of why they went this direction for the cover. There's probably another edition of this one out there that looks nicer than this, or I just don't know why. I don't know why they chose this. And then Just Know is the most negative. I honestly, at the front end of this, I don't anticipate a lot of books falling into that category.
No! No!
But if it is just a really bad cover, I will keep it under Just Know. It's not looking like this is in any particular order to where I have read it. It just sorted it by the screenshot date or something, I don't know. But I'll go first with In Limbo by Deb J.J. Lee. I think that this one falls under I Will Never Be the Same. If you're not familiar, this is a graphic novel, and so all of the interior and exterior art was done by the author. It is a memoir, and I loved it. I think the cover is gorgeous. Orphan Believers is a nonfiction. It is also a sort of a memoir. For me, the cover, we've got a few Polaroids on here, and I think it's a Polaroid of a cassette tape. It was leaning back too far for me. It wasn't like to the degree of some of the covers that I've seen lately where like you see a VHS tape and like part of the cover ripped off. I really love that sort of like nostalgic throwback cover trend, but this one didn't do it for me. This one, I think you could make it so quickly in Photoshop. Also, there's not a lot of like expertise that I see in the artwork itself, and it's also red. It's a red cover. Yeah, this cover for me is Just No. Next up, so we have Emily Wild's Encyclopedia, or is it Emily Wild? I think it's Wild. I'm gonna say Emily Wild though, whatever. So Emily Wild, Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This cover is actually really pretty, and the copy that I had was a hardback, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but like the paper that they chose for it, or the varnish that they did, the treatment, it was really nice. Like, it was a nice soft covered hardback, which you don't normally see in a hardback. You see that in, you know, a paperback sometimes. So I think for that one, I think the typography is fun. It's got like an Art Nouveau look to it. It reminds me of Alphonse Mucha. And then we have a lot of little symbols and things on there. I think for this one, it's a slightly busy, so that's my only like downside to that one. So I would go ahead and say though, Please Sir, I'd Like Some More for that one. That's gonna go up there. And then another graphic memoir. This one, because it is original too, and it has been winning lots of prizes, well deserved in my opinion, I'm gonna say please start I'd like some more, because it is artwork from the artist and it is a graphic novel, so her art is throughout. I just think the real problem for me is the orange type is kind of getting lost when it overlays on the white of the cloud in the background. It's tough to contrast when you have, you know, a grayscale background and you're overlaying another text over top of it. There needs to be enough contrast between that title and the background for it to stand out, and so the title kind of gets lost for me. The author's name is fine, there's enough dark in the background for it to contrast. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're not gonna talk about that one anymore. So the next one is Cold Clay. I believe I have 2 or 3 of the Shady Hollow mystery series in this list. Just checking. Yep, I have 3 of them. And I haven't read from these editions, but I do this weird thing when I change the edition in Storygraph or Goodreads. That's not true of all of these. Some of these I've kept in the same edition that I read in, but for the Shady Hollow, I actually read more of like an illustrated, kind of like a folk art style, and I like those better, I think, but I think these ones appeal to a different age group of reader, and I don't know if this is the ebook edition or what, but they do actually look really nice together. I just think for the tone of the story, it's really not a dark setting at all, so I think like these are a little bit too contrasty, and the scenes here are just like a little too spooky, but the books are not spooky at all, so it's kind of weird to me. Delia Sai is the author of Central Places. It's an illustrated cover, has a nice color to it, like the yellow and the pink is pretty cool. The illustration is not like the most absorbing, but I like it. I think it's definitely a Procreate cover. That's what it looks like to me. It's like something that you would whip up in Procreate, but I like it. I think I actually would prefer more people try to do like a close-up image of this than some of like the romance book covers that you see like the little tiny characters interacting. I think that this is interesting because it does show that like she is the main character and her thoughts are important. I think for this one it's gonna be Felt Good Might Delete for me. Twyford Code. So it's a mixed media novel where you literally are like reading between the lines to figure out a coded message throughout the book. It takes a lot of brain power to read, and one of the symbols that is recurring is that of a fish. I don't remember it being like this sort of like koi or goldfish or something, but it's been a while. When I look at the cover, it does kind of give me like, oh, this is gonna be different, this is gonna be interesting. But the giant fish, I'm not sure that was the best choice. So for that one, it's gonna go in Y. This one is interesting to me because I've started to see more covers pop up that have this, and you can see like the font is very similar to the Twyford Code. Again, it kind of looks like a handwritten sort of not consistent type, and I think the image is the main hang up for me, despite the typography not being like that original, but like the fact that the image is like a stock image of a woman's face and they just kind of change like where her hands are positioned, any other additional props. And I think it works, but it's not super memorable to me, and whenever I see other colors, when I see other covers that are doing this, I kind of feel like, oh, this is a trend now and I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm gonna say Felt Good Might Delete for that one. Alright, so next up we have this beautiful cover for Ode to a Nobody, and this cover I felt myself staring at, you know, when I would pick up the book, because the colors are vibrant and gorgeous. There's a beautiful use of texture, and there's all of these objects that are intermixed into the portrait. And so we have a house, we have a video game controller, There is I believe it's a hamster. Yeah, it's a hamster. Lots of little objects in there. And it does, I think, to me, convey the contents of the book quite nicely. I love the teal lettering. I think it's just Futura, honestly. It's not anything fancy. But like that teal contrasted with like the red hair, it kind of like subtly gives like the Little Mermaid vibes to me for some reason. So this one feels pretty controversial to me. I own this copy. This is on my shelf currently right now. So we've got that standard illuminated letter, and then there is a calligraphic font. It might have been handwritten, I did not research that. And then we have some sort of like illustration of what is to come in the story. And the main thing that I have issues with these covers is literally just how the composition is set up. And so everything feels very crowded. The Assassin's Quest is quite big, it goes edge to edge, and the author's name is also quite big. The illustration is kind of like the tertiary element, and then you have like the attribution or the blurb. A little busy, so it's not my favorite, and I would not want to see more. I like these editions better than the ones that we have an illustration of a character. I think I'm gonna put it in Y, just because I think the organization of the elements is a little weak. That could be stronger. I'm not in love with the calligraphic font, although I get it. I mean, Fitz is also learning the trade of a scribe at the same time that he's trained to be an assassin. The organization of the elements is not there for me, and so I'm putting that to Y. All right, next up we have a Agatha Christie cover, a collection of Poirot mystery stories, and it's made to look like a suitcase that has all these travel destination stickers, but I honestly think it is kind of tacky. No for me. I don't know, like, it's interesting that there's two that have red. I don't know if the red is like steering me in a negative fashion here, but I think Murder in the Muse is no for me. No like real travel in this one that I can remember. I think most of the cases in this book were local. And then The Retreat. This is a very stock heavy image. The setting of this one obviously is a retreat that's set on a remote island. There's more to the property than just this one building on a cliffside. Like, it is the central location in the story, but there's also other buildings that we find out later in the story. So I think for this one, it's not why, but it is just felt good, my delete. I think it does feel good. It has impact. That tall, narrow lettering, it does really draw you in. It looks almost like a movie title, an opening title. And I like the colors. I just think it looks ominous to begin with, and the initial piece of this story is like people want to go there because it is a vacation spot. So it's an interesting, I don't know, there's a little bit of a disbalance there in my opinion. Next up, this very graphic illustrated cover of the Lonely Hearts Book Club. I kind of know already where I want it to go. Do think it does what it's supposed to do. It kind of makes you think it might be romance as a genre. It's actually not, but there is romance as an element of the story. It's just kind of one of those light-hearted found family sort of stories, like people finding each other within a book club. I'm gonna have to put this in felt good in my delete. And I think I'm gonna bump these guys down here because, again, they're really pretty covers, but they don't set the mood of the story. So I'm downgrading those to Y. Next we have Chocolat by Joanne Harris. I really like these covers as compared to the previously published editions that were more, they look more like a photo manipulated image. It's just, there's a lot of compositing that's happening. They're a little bit more photo illustrated. I like this one that it's a shop front. However, the image that they chose the image that they chose for this one, you can kind of see into the shop on the right hand side if you zoom in, and it looks to me a little bit more like a hotel potentially, or a completely different kind of shop. And I think my only qualm with this cover is that why wouldn't you just try to you know, superimpose a different image in there that actually did look like the inside of Vien's shop. That was my only qualm with it. I absolutely love the font choices that they made with this one. The chocolate title is beautiful. Her byline is beautiful there. No problems with the typography whatsoever. It's just a little detail that I think was a missed opportunity. I think for that one, I'm gonna go ahead and say, please sir, I would like some more. Because I think this is a very atmospheric sort of cover, and it tied really well with the book itself. And then, all right, so A Prayer for the Crown Shy. This one also, well, no, let's see. I'm a little torn between I'll Never Be the Same and Please Sir, I'd Like Before. I think what's gonna put it over the edge for me is the combination of the illustrated cover and the typography, because it just does a really good job of letting you know that this is a setting that you've never experienced before, but it's also a little strange. Like the font is a little strange. It looks like organic and mechanical, which I love because that's the whole theme there, is we have a robot and a monk. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that whole Never Be the Same. I think that was a really good choice of theirs. All right, so now we have this edition of Once There Was a War. This book had a lot of interesting cover choices. This is not the edition that I read from. I actually had a library copy and there was literally nothing on the cover. It was just a hardback, a naked hardback, and it was a very older edition. This one I don't like because it's a photo. It gives me VSCO Kim vibes. We have a duotone kind of style photo here. I don't know that the photo itself looked old to me, and then I don't know, I guess it looks like Heidi STC or something as the font here, or Century Gothic. I'm not sure what they chose for those. I think this is like the penguin, the light blue, like a minty green spine. I think for this one, I'm just gonna say no. Of the covers that I did see though, I think this was like the nicest looking one, but it's not really doing much for me, and it's very large. The title is very large in relation to the rest of the cover. The next one is an Agatha Christie, and we have Dumb Witness, and I think we have a cute little dog who is one of the main characters in this story is a cute little terrier dog, and he becomes a suspect in a murder investigation. So I think that's pretty apparent from the cover that he is a part of the story. So we have the dog, he's got a little ball there that also figures in the story. The font is also nice on this one because it is, it looks like more of an older cover, but it was clearly designed recently. It felt good, my dilly. It's not the most memorable. Next we have The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Our newest book also has like a similar composition to this one. I think it also used like the scraps of paper behind the words. This one, I'm going to say very clean. The flowers are a nice punch of color. I'd say probably Please Sir, I'd Like Some More. Yeah, I'm kind of torn, honestly, between Felt Good, My Dilly, and Please Sir, I'd Like Some More with that one, because I believe we will be seeing some more of that sort of style if we have not already. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, and this is another one of those books similar to Once There Was a War, which I read it the same month. The cover designs are varied, and none of them particularly look good. So I'm just going to say just no for this one, and it doesn't have a strong tie into the story for me, so I'm gonna say no. And then we have Georgie All Along. It's a bright yellow cover, kind of similar to this one, a little bit more, yeah, it's like the highlighter yellow. And then we have the pink of the book cover that she's holding. I like the font the best. Again, it's weird compositionally to me because the title is so huge. The illustration is also like a medium size. I guess it works. And it is a romance book for sure. And so I think that I'm gonna go ahead and put that here, because what I do like about it is that the emphasis is on the script. The emphasis is on the script, not on that little illustration. And because they are overlapping, they're kind of working together. It almost looks Parisian to me, even though that's not the vibe of the story whatsoever. I'd like to see some more of that sort of composition, I think. This is a nonfiction. Finding the hero in your husband. It could be worse. Earlier editions were like a maiden and a knight, which you could do in a way that looks cool, but I think the general problem that I have with this cover is that it is very feminine, and I don't think you need to go feminine with a design of a book that is for women. Like, you can branch out, you can use neutral colors, you can I don't know, like you could do a different object on the cover other than a heart and a pink background, or you could keep the pink background and you could have like a knight's helmet or something like that, like something that ties more strongly in the theme. It is about love, it is about marriage, so I get the heart. I just don't, there's nothing about this, from the font to the artwork to the colors, I actually really don't like it. So I'm just gonna say just no for that one. I think more people would pick it up if it was, I just think like it needs a redesign. 10,000 Doors of January. This one is, this one might come as a surprise to you, because I think it is such a stunning cover in the flower elements, the photorealistic elements of the flowers, the doorknob. I think the main problem that I have with it is just the font choice. 10 and Doors font looks too much like the text that you would see on American currency, and I don't like that. That visual connection that's made in my mind, because it has nothing to do with the story. I don't know if I would feel differently. I think they tried too hard to make the knob of the door one of the O's in Doors, and it probably would have been fine if they weren't purposefully aligning it that way. I just think with a few tweaks it could have been even stronger. If you want to see more like this, I just want to see them try some new things as well. So I'm gonna say please start like some more. 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson. I like this one. I think it's easy to tell it is a mystery story, and I even get a little bit of like middle grade because of the font choice. You can tell it has leaves, and I believe it's a staircase that we're looking at as the image, and the colors are very fall. I think for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in Please Sir, I'd Like Some More, because it's not my favorite, but there's just something about that series. Like it obviously it did have to follow a pattern because it's in a series similar to Finley Donovan. You know, it picked a style and now it kind of has to run with it, and that's fine. And then Office BFFs. This is a nonfiction. If you're not aware, it felt good, might delete. It's not the most memorable. It is clean. I like that about it. I like that they settled on 2 different fonts for the cover instead of 3 or 4. And I think it's not necessarily one that I would display or anything, but like it does give there's a good tie to like the content and the inside of the book. So we've got Death in the Clouds. This one is just no for me. Even though the tie-in between the story and the cover is strong enough. It just is really ugly to me. I don't want to see a giant wasp or bee or whatever, I don't remember. I don't want to see that, and the font I also don't like. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that a just no. I honestly, if I were having to troubleshoot that cover, I think part of it is like the way that they have scribbled in between the objects, and you've got like the white showing through. It's mostly, it's color, it's the size of the bee. I don't like it. All right, so The Secret Society of Regular Witches. I definitely had some thoughts on this one as a book. However, we're just looking at the cover for now. I think that as far as like salability of the story, this one has worked quite well. However, I think that the main problem I have with this is just the mansion or house in this. It reminds me more of like a mausoleum or something rather than a house. It's just too square. And in their house, it's not on a hill in the story that I remember. It is on like this really nice property with gardens and stuff. Your eye kind of goes to the main character in the sky on a broom there because of her yellow dress, and then you go to the taxi cab, the guy in the sweater, like yellow shirt. But that house is such a dominating element in its position on the cover. I feel like there could have been a little bit more stylization of the shape of that house. I just don't like it. It's too boxy. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Y for that one, just because I think a few minor tweaks could have made it a little stronger. The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi. This particular cover was like the standard edition. It's the US version. The UK editions for these covers were much prettier, but they were more minimal in the use of color. It is kind of just like a fun and crazy story, and so I feel like that does evoke that for me. Got this giant sea monster, which does feature in the story, but I think it's really just the colors that are doing it. The illustration is cool, but the different colors that they chose for this is what really takes over. So I think for this one, I'm gonna say please sir, I'd like some more, because I would love to see more covers that know their color theory enough to play with this. Because even though it's not a graphic novel, it looks from the cover like it could be. Set the Stars Alight by Amanda Dykes. A photo manipulated image. We've got some photos that have been spliced together for this illustration, and then we've got, I'm not 100% if that is two different fonts. I'm pretty sure it is though. So two different fonts. After having read the book, I would make a tweak to the foreground of the image because you're supposed to be inside of a sea cave. This one just looks like you are looking at rocks that are framing the ship in the distance. Like they're just rocks out in the water, and I think it could have been more clear that like it's a little darker on the foreground, like you're inside of a cave. I think for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in Felt Good, Might Delete. It's better than a lot of historical fiction covers that I've seen, but primarily because we don't have like a person's face or people that are facing away from you on the front, but I'm gonna put it there. Lonely Castle in the Mirror. This one is very strong. It gives you an indication that it's going to be different. It's going to be a different sort of story. It's very clean. The way that the elements are organized is nice, and the colors are also nice. I love how like the left rectangle there mirrors the same color as the lips of the character. I will say I have seen the US edition of this book is actually much more gorgeous in my opinion. It's much more fantastical and scary looking than this one. This book is kind of a little weird, and like it's not really about the castle and the mirror, it's about the characters. I think that this one kind of ties better with the actual meaning of this story to me. So I'm gonna say please sir, I'd like some it's just the simplicity of it for me. We have another classic here. The editions that I have seen of The Catcher in the Rye, this is still strong in my opinion, and I also happen to know that this was J.D. Salinger's favorite cover. It says that somewhere. So I think that this one is just one of those that you can't do better, really. You won't really know why until the very end of the book. I think that it's a very strong cover choice. Frederick Bachman. Got a couple of those in here. So Us Against You was the second book in the Beartown series. It ties in nicely with the idea that like this is a story about adults and children, and there is a sports rivalry, but also just a lot of conflict in the town. There's a lot of relational trauma, and I think for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and say it is, oh man, I think, do I want more of this type of cover though? I think yes. It is very Bachman now to see like a large title integrated with illustration. Next book is very short. They are quotes from authors about writing or reading, and I think it has like different cityscapes. It's not just New York City in here, but they are the bookends to these 3 books that make up the title. And the graphic artist who made this book, she attended many author talks, and she would take notes at those talks, and then she would make, you know, a featured quote from that talk with the author's portrait. It works. Books that hold up the city that holds up books. I think for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and say, it felt good in my delete. I think this sandwich board style sign is quite interesting because that sign does feature in the story, and so it's a neat element to include. And the chalkboard lettering, it just definitely makes me think of coffee shops. The only thing that I'm a little bit on the middle about here would be the different colors. It would be pretty bizarre for me to see a sandwich board that used these colors. It would either be like all white chalk, or it would be maybe 2 colors. And this has like 3 or 4 in there. So that's the only thing where I have to like kind of just suspend my disbelief and be like, okay, let's see what they're going for. But it's still very pretty. I'm gonna say I'd like some more. I'd like to see more chalk lettering covers when it makes sense. It definitely made sense for the story. This book was a cover buy for so many people, and I think they really didn't know what they were getting into with this one. I think the use of color is the best. In this, you've got the yellow of the lemons. There is it's not necessarily an earthy green. It's more of an eerie light green. And then you've got all this fungi and leaves. There are bugs. It is a beautiful cover in my opinion, and I think this one deserves to be up here. The font choice is perfect as well, ties in thematically. That is kind of a witchy font, like it works. It's not the same as, it's not the same as the regular Society of Witches. Like, can you imagine if they used Wayward in that font that they chose for witches on this cover? It would just be a completely different vibe. So I think it's beautiful. All right, so Dreamer's Pool, I think it's just ready for an update in my opinion. It's one of the few Juliette Marillier books that hasn't had a new edition. I just don't love the illustrated maiden for the cover any more than I like having people's faces on the covers generally. So I'm gonna say why for that one. I think it just needs an update. Even the font I think could be better. It doesn't need to be like that serifed all caps. Happy Place by Emily Henry. The edition that I ended up reading was just all pink. It did not have these colors in it, and I think this one actually works a little bit better. I've heard a lot of people say like they didn't like the bright pink of the cover, so I think for this one it still lets you know what you're in for. You know, it's an Emily Henry book, it's romance, and it's going to be fun, and there's going to be good stuff in it, but it's it's also pretty light and fluffy. So I think I'm just gonna say why, because of that bright pink. All right, we have Martha Wells' Artificial Condition from the Murderbot series here. All Systems Red is the first book. I believe this one was, this was the second one, yes. I think the only issue that I have with these ones is that even having read the story, it's still kind of hard to make out the pieces and parts in the cover art. I like the font. I don't love that the author's name is larger than the title. That's just a pet peeve of mine. I would prefer that the title is the largest element. But maybe that's just me. Let me know. Let me know if you disagree or if you feel the same. Felt good in my delete. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that because these are all following the same stylistic principles. Although I would say Rogue Protocol and Artificial Condition are better than All Systems Red in my opinion. I think that this is just it's a weird cover to me, especially because we do come to know and love our protagonist in this one, and I think the cover isn't doing it any favors. All right, the ABC Murders. It's another style of Agatha Christie. You can see that it's very different from this one. It's very different from this one. I think I generally prefer like these editions of the Agatha Christie books. It's a lot cleaner, and they just have one image. It's not illustrated. Go ahead and I'd say like it felt good in my delete. It's not like the most memorable, but it's definitely the best of the Agatha Christie. And you can see from here by Mariana Lakey. It became an international bestseller, but the origin is Germany. I've never seen the purple, red, and pink usage like they did here. I think the colors are really impactful. The author's name and the title take up the entire book, but they're not necessarily competing with the illustrations, and I like that. I think I would like to see more like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that up there. We're starting to look a little heavy in the middle tiers here, so I might have a second thought to some of these. Camp Zero, we have a person's face on the cover. It's taking up most of it. It is not pixelated so much as it's a dot matrix print, so you can see the dots that make up the colors of the image. If you look at it a little bit closer, that's why it looks so strange. It's because you can see that the dots are not close enough together to close in the image, but they're still enough for you to perceive the color and the definition of the image. So I think it's an interesting choice. I think I would like to see more sci-fi try that trend. It helps tell the story. I just really don't like the face. I don't like the face being the main element. Like, it's just too close. It's too close of an image for me, and the font is fine. It's just the arrangement of elements is too large. Too large text for the title, too large face image. So we've gotten down here to a Wendell Berry. This is a collection of short stories in Port William, and it is called How It Went. I think I overall like the font choice of this one. It's reminding me of Kill a Mockingbird for some reason. I think this one is going to be, it's going to be in Y for me. This is interesting to me because we have people on the cover of this one, and the last one, it's just landscape. And the font is different from this series of covers. The book is also so much bigger. Definitely have questions about this one. I'm just gonna say why, because I don't know why. I don't know why they decided to do that. Also, it's just the completely different font really bothers me because it is part of the same series. The author's name is taking up just as much, if not more, space on the cover than the title. So yeah, the whole this one is weird because the story is weird, but also it's just an image of grass, and it doesn't look like it has been necessarily manipulated in any way. Like, If anything, I might have adjusted the saturation of the grass photo. But what's weird to me is that there is no hole in the picture. It's just the graphs. So I still think though, for it to just be the title and the author's name, and they're like very small elements, and one photo, I think actually that minimalist, I don't know if it belongs up here, but I would like to see more of that trend. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm gonna upgrade this one. And I'm going to also upgrade the Catcher in the Rye. There we go. All right, this was a cool cover, but I did DNF this one, so I don't think I'm not even gonna do that one. It's not fair. Romantic comedy. This one it's a kind of cool cover, but it really doesn't necessarily, it's a minimalist, it's more font based, and the font is probably DIN alternate or something if I had to guess. It works, but I don't know that I'd want to see more of this. I'm gonna put that up here. Felt good might delete. Here we have another one of these. This should be here. I should have moved that there before. It's really kind of the same problems, same things I like about it, same things I don't like about it. And then this also is a nice Agatha Christie. It's not like this. It's not really like that. Why are they all different? Why are all the Agatha Christie covers so different? I don't know. I think for this one, I would like to see more like that, of that style. They're not my favorite Agatha Christie covers. The ones that I really love are these, but the illustrator for this one is still working his way through, and they haven't acquired the copyright from the estate for all of the books, and so that's why we probably will not see the entire collection of Agatha Christie's many books in those editions, but I do love that edition. Alright, and so we have Amari and the Great Game. The first book in these editions I think is absolutely gorgeous, and it is just Amari on the cover. She's a little bit smaller, but she's central on the cover, and then we have the exploding crystal ball. I love it. It's beautiful. This one is a little less for me. It still has some of the like fun printed elements, so you've got like that really cool reflective name for Amari. It's just gold tone instead of silver for this one. I just think because the characters are so much closer, they're almost closer to you than before. That's the only thing that I don't love as much about it. It still makes kind of sense, but in general though, I like that they moved away from the original style. I believe these were the UK editions that I have on my shelf, and the originals looked almost like Amari, just too perfect, and I like that these, like, they still look beautiful, but like she looks more like a kid. She looks more like a middle grade person, and these books were middle grade, so I think I'm gonna put there. For David Copperfield, I wanted this edition so badly, but I could not find it anywhere. It is just the Penguin Classics softcover, but after having read the story and knowing the funny anecdote behind donkeys, I just love it all the more, and I still really want to find it. But I think for this one, I mean, it does fall in the same series, same illustrator even, so I would like to see more of that though. I'd like to see more classics that are adapted into a series of books like that. There's just nothing, you know, like Penguin Illustrated, there's nothing like that. So we're gonna go ahead and start tootling around in here, make sure these are in the right order. Anything that needs to be upgraded. I'm not upgraded mine there, I think, actually, definitely before those. Alright. And then here. A Career in Books. This is another graphic novel. Whoops, moved to Assassin's Quest. So, Career in Books. This one I did like. I liked. torn between upgrading which one of these. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that. Then Vinland Saga. I don't know why I haven't read more from this. I just haven't been in a manga mood. I enjoyed it. And I like the font. Got the ship club main character. It's not groundbreaking for sure. I'm just gonna say felt good. I read the first omnibus for this manga, but I feel like they're gonna have a special edition that's even more impactful than this one, to be honest with you. So this is what my tier list looks like, and I'm gonna do a little bit more retooling in here. I think we're still best to worst, so from the best to worst, these actually get moved up here, and here. Just have to stay together. And oh, that's definitely still there. Giant fish. Here we go. That makes sense to me. And then these ones. I feel like I'm happy with the order of these. This probably needs to be last though. Yeah, that's it. This is my tier list. This was fun. This was like an hour of judging covers in real time. I don't know how long it's going to be when I actually edit this, but let me know if you like this type of video. I'd be happy to do it again. I won't always tackle covers in a tier list like this, but I thought it would be fun. This is my first tier list experience, and I didn't hate it. It's kind of fun to like talk through the different cover styles with you guys and kind of take a look back at everything I've read. And obviously there was something that drew me towards these covers because I picked them up, and even if it wasn't because of the covers, it might have been a story or a recommendation from a fellow booktuber. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you would like to join me for more design-based conversations about covers or the contents of books, make sure you subscribe so you get notifications when I post a new video. I post new videos on Sundays generally, but sometimes I get fun ideas like this and I'll do something midweek. Let me know in the comments the last book that you read that you thought had a really great cover, and I can't wait to continue talking about books and their covers with you in the next video. I will see you again soon.